Good morning, guys. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Okay. So today it is going to be the last class of ADO.NET. Most of the concept we have already covered in our training, right? So if you look at the things what we have so far covered, we have covered the introduction to ADO.NET. We have covered how to work with SQL Server Database, right? Then we discussed the SQL connection object, SQL command object, SQL data reader, SQL data adapter, right? And these are working right. If you are working with the data reader, it is a connection oriented, and if you are working with the data adapter, it is disconnected oriented, right? Open connection is not required always, but in the case of SQL data reader, an active and open connection is always required, right? Using while you are working with SQL data adapter, you need to use data table or data set to fill the data. So we have then discussed what is data table, what are the important methods of data table. We have discussed what is data set. Then we discussed what is strongly typed data set, right? So strongly typed data set in the sense the data set is created automatically based on the corresponding database, right? Then the data set is going to be strongly typed, right? Then we discuss what is how to work with the storage procedure, how to work with the storage procedure using data set. Then we have discussed the bulk operations, right? How you can perform bulk insert, update, delete, right? In ADO.NET, right? Using storage procedure, how you can perform the insert bulk insert, right? Using a SQL bulk copy. Then we have discussed what is batch operations, right? How you can perform the batch operation. Batch operation in the sense, suppose you are having a huge data, right? 1000 data you want to insert or you want to update, right? Or you want to delete. Then in that case, instead of sending all the all the 1000 records at a time to the server, right? The database server, you can make a batch of 100 and you can send 100 records at a time, right? That is what we have discussed. Then we have discussed exactly what is connection oriented and disconnected oriented architecture. Then we discuss the transaction. Transaction means we have discussed two types of a transaction. One is single database transaction. One is multiple database transaction, which is nothing but your distributed transaction, right? Then we discussed this concept called connection pooling, and we came to know that we should enable connection pooling while working with ADO.NET, right? So how to enable the connection pooling means in the connection string, we need to specify pool equals to true. Then automatically connection pooling is going to be enabled, and we have also discussed how I can check whether it is using the connection pooled object or not by using the tool called the performance monitor, right? Then we have discussed the data view class, right? If you are having a data table, right, and you want to represent that data table data with different format, with different style, right, by applying some filter condition, by sorting the data based on some column value, right, then you have to use this data view class. And then we have discussed the ADO.NET architecture. At architecture, I have shown you the diagram, right, how the ADO.NET exactly work in .NET framework, right? So today we are going to discuss how you can use ADO.NET to work with XML data. Then we will discuss what is a SQL injection and prevention. And finally, we will discuss what is a SQL command builder object in .NET and what is the difference between SQL command and SQL command builder object, right? This is today's agenda. With this, we will conclude our ADO.NET, right? Clear, guys?
Clear.
Clear.
See. So what we are going to discuss now, we are going to create one XML file, which is going to store some data, right? And then what is our requirement? We will load those data into a data table, and from the data table, we are going to insert those data into our database table, right? And for that purpose, so we are having many options, right? So once you have data in the data table, you can send those data using SqlBulkCopy class. You can send those data using storage procedure, right? Even you can also use the SQL data adapter and perform the batch operation, right? So we have discussed the three options, right, for that bulk operation, right? So these three options are there. So, but in this case, I'm going to use this SqlBulkCopy class, which is very easy to understand, right? So first of all, let us give you an idea of what is SQL bulk copy class, right? So already we have discussed, it is a class which is used to unlock or from bulk copy, right, from different data sources to SQL Server database, right? So the point that you need to remember, if you are working with a SQL bulk copy class, right, the source can be any data, right? Source can be your SQL Server database, Oracle database, right, or XML file, anything. The source can be anything, but the destination should be SQL Server, right? If you want to store some data into the SQL Server database, right? Right. By taking the data from any data sources, you can take the data from another SQL Server database, from Oracle database, from XML file, right? That's no issue. Source can be anything, but the destination, right, where you are going to store those data must be SQL Server. And if the destination database is SQL Server, then you can use this SQL bulk copy class to insert the data which is stored in the data table, right, which is coming from any data sources into the SQL Server database, right? And why it is only working with the SQL Server database? Because this class belongs to System.Data.SqlClient namespace, and we know this is the data provider .NET. This is the .NET data provider for SQL Server database. That means if I'm using this namespace, then whatever classes this namespace provide, those classes are going to be work with only SQL Server database. Clear? Right, guys?
Yes.
Right. So if you are using this namespace, means it is the .NET data provider for SQL Server database. If I'm using Oracle client, then that is going to be our .NET data provider for Oracle database, right? And in Oracle database, there is no such class called Oracle bulk copy, right? This functionality is only provided inside this namespace, right? So we can only work, we can use this namespace, or you can say we can use this SQL bulk copy class only when we are going to store the data in the SQL Server database. But the source can be anything, right? Source can be, you can take the data from anywhere, right? You can create your own data, right? You can get the data from another database, right? You can get the data from a XML file. That can be anything, but the destination, it should be SQL Server only, right? So now let us understand how we are going to load the XML data, right, and into a data table, and how we can insert those data from the data table into the SQL Server database table, right? So for this, what we require, we need to create one XML file, right? So I have created one XML file, right? So let me give this as a data, right? So here you can give any name, employees department data. So if you remember, this is a XML file which is having some nodes, right? So this is the main node, right? Within this node, I'm having a department node, right? Within this department node, I'm having two columns. One is name and another is Mumbai. So currently this department, right? This is, you can consider this is a node, right? This node having three columns. One is the primary key, right? ID, and the primary column, or the next one is name, and the next one is location, right? So basically this department, right, what I'm having in my XML file, this contains the information of the ID column, name column, and a location, right? And how many department are there in my XML file? One department, two department, three departments. So this is nothing but your department information, right? Clear? This is nothing but your department data.
Okay.
And coming to then the next set, it is containing some employee data. So another node, so this is a node, right? And this node name is employee, this node name is department, and in department node we are having three columns, right? One is ID. You can create the column like this. Even it is also possible that you can also create the column like this, right? So you can create ID, right? So I'm showing you both the options. So right, 101, this is also possible, right? So if you do not like this option is also possible, right? So I'm showing you both the options. This is the reason why I'm putting the ID column directly at the node level, right? This is the root node, and inside this root node, we are containing two types of data, two types of node. One is department node, another one is employee node, right? So you can say department node having three columns, ID, name, and location, and employee having four columns. What are the name? ID, name, gender, and department ID. This department ID is nothing but the ID of the department node. Clear? And here I'm storing one employee data, two employee data, three employee data, fourth employee data, and a fifth employee data. So this is my XML file, and I have created this XML file somewhere in my application. There is a folder called training XML file, and inside this location, right? And the extension should be going to be XML, right? So I have created this file name as department employees.xml. Clear, guys?
Clear.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is nothing but your XML file. So now what is my requirement? I have to load this data, right, into a data table. So not into a single data table. I have to store this data into two different data tables. One data table is going to store the department data. Another data table is going to store the employee data, right? And once you load this data into the data table, then we need to insert those data into a database table, right? Two database table, right? So this is what created. So basically what we want two database, right? One is a department's database, another one is employee database table, right? So basically we will create the signature of this two table, but we will not insert any data, right? And the data is going to be inserted via our SqlBulkCopy class by taking the data from the XML file. That SqlBulkCopy class is going to store the data into this department and the employees table, right? So for this purpose, first of all, we need to create the department and the employees table without any data. So this is my company DB. Company DB is already there. Yes, let me delete this one. Okay. Let me create. Okay. Right. So you can see company DB is created and the two tables should be created, department and employee. Now, if you verify the data in these two tables, let's start from what is the table name. One is employees, right? And another one is department. Now, if you verify these two tables, right, then you will see these two tables are empty, right? So department table is going to be empty and the employee table is going to be empty, right? Now, what is our requirement? We need to store this department and employee list, right? This department list and employee list inside these two tables, right? And for this, what we need, first of all, we need to load this XML data, right? We need to load this XML data into a data table. And once we load this data into the data table, then from the data table, we are going to load the data into the database table by using SqlBulkCopy class. Clear, guys? What is our requirement and what we are going to do?
Yes.
Right. Okay. This is very simple and very straightforward. So you can see this is my connection string, right? Which is communicating or pointing to our company DB database, which is located inside this database, inside this server, right? And here I'm using Windows authentication. I'm unable to use SQL authentication because I have not installed that mix mode while installing SQL Server, right? So then I have created one data set. In this case, the data set is going to store the data of both the department and employee, right? Department data is going to store inside the department data table, and employee data is going to store inside the employee data table. And this is the reason why I'm using data set, right? So create a data set which store the XML data which contains multiple data tables, right? So in this case, you can consider this is employees one data table and the department is another data table, right? So two data tables. So I am going with the data set, right? Then you need to provide the actual path where your XML file is located, right? So my XML file is located inside this location. You can select the fully qualified name, right? Like this, Control C, and you have to specify by using the @ symbol. So you do not need to receive. If I'm removing @ symbol, then you have to provide / like this, right? //. So instead of that // right? What I can do, I can use the @ symbol, right? So which will makes this as a string, right? And in this case, this // is not required, right? So once you have the data set, right? Once you have the file location where the file is created, that's it. What you need to do inside this dataset object, there is a method called read XML. And to this method, you need to provide the file path, right, where your XML file is located. So we have created a variable, right, XML file path. That variable store where exactly your XML file is located, and you just need to pass that object to this read XML method. What this read XML method will do, it will read the XML schema in the sense what is the main root node, what is the child node, what is the name of the child node, right? How many columns are there in each node, how many child nodes are there, right? So everything it will read. Not only it read the schema, but also data, right? And not only it reads the schema, but also the data. And in this case, what is the data? ID equals to this, name equals to this, location equals to this. This is another ID, right? Every data it also read and fill the data set. So, right? As in this case, we are having two child node, right? One is department, another is employee. So it is going to create, right? It is going to create two data sets, right? It is going to create two data table within the data set. One data table with the name department and another data table with the name employee, right? So it is basically based on the child node. The data set is filled, and as we are having two childs, right? One is department, another is employee. So internally, it is going to create two different data tables. One data table name is going to be department. Another data table name is going to be employee. And inside this department data table, it is going to create three columns. One is ID, another is name, another one is location. And then it is also going to fill the data. So this is one row. This is another row inside the department data table. This is another row inside the data table department, right? Similarly, employee data table is also going to be created. This data table is going to be created with 4 columns. What are the column names? ID name, gender, and a department. And then it is going to store 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 row, and 5 rows. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see once you store the department, right? So you can see this data set having two departments data, right? Now, if you want to fetch the data, right? So you want the data, you want the department data, right? The department data in this case, this is the first data because first child node is department. So you can access the department data table and store from the data set by using the name department, right? This is the name, or you can also access by using the index position 0, right? So here what I'm doing, I'm just accessing the department data table and storing it inside the department's data table. Here I'm just accessing the employee data table and storing it inside the employee data table, right? Then simply I'm using a for each loop to display the department data, and I'm using a for each loop to display the employee data. So in this case, see, for display purpose, you do not need to store this data inside the database table, right? For display purpose, right? Suppose you want to display the department table data, you can simply write like this. This is also fine, right? But why I'm storing this data inside a data table? Only because of SqlBulkCopy class, right? So SqlBulkCopy means we are going to store one data table data inside a database table, and for that purpose, I'm storing the data inside the. I'm just fetching the data of table data from the data set and storing in a separate data table, right? So here we are having departments data table, and here we are having the departments table. So my requirement is now whatever data inside this department's data table, I want to insert those data inside this department table. Whatever data I'm having inside my employees data table, I want to store those data inside my employees database table, right? For displaying purpose, you can directly use this syntax. No need to store the data inside a database table, right? But that is required when you are going to use SqlBulkCopy class, because SqlBulkCopy you have to provide the data table, right, which contains the actual data. Even this is also not required. In this case also you can directly pass like this. This is also possible, right? So here what I'm doing, I'm just printing the data which is stored in the department's data table and in the employees data table, right? Now next, what I'm going to do, I want to store this data inside the database. So for that purpose, I'm just opening the connection object. So you can say this is my connection object. I'm just opening the connection object. Once the connection object is opened, right, then I'm creating an instance. I'm creating an instance of a SqlBulkCopy class. And to this instance, I'm just passing the connection object, right? And then I'm specifying, right, this SqlBulkCopy class right now going to store the data inside the department's destination table, right? Destination table name means in this case it is the database table name, and the database table name is department. So I'm passing that department table name here, right? Now column mapping is optional, right? As both a source and a destination contains, right, same number type and same number name and type of a columns, right? So this is optional, but I would suggest you should provide this mapping, right? So id means our data table having id, name and a location, and in the database it is also having id, name and a location, right? Column mapping is same, right? So as the source, right, source in this case department's data table, column name and the destination column name are going to be same, so you can simply ignore these things, right? But if you are not ignoring, then that is also fine, but if you ignore, then that is also fine, right? And we know there is a method called write to server, and we just need to call that method of the SqlBulkCopy object, and we just need to pass the data table which contains our actual data, right? And in this case, this data is going to be stored inside this department's table, right? And the same thing I'm again doing for the employee data table, right? So here the destination table name is going to be employee, right? Employees, right? So employees, and then I'm just doing the column mapping from my employees data table column name to the employees database table column name, and then simply calling this write to server method and passing this employees data. We have already discussed what is SqlBulkCopy class, what is column mapping, when to use column mapping, when not to use column mapping, right? What is the use of a write to server method? Everything we have already discussed in our SqlBulkCopy class. So I'm not going to discuss this thing again and again, right? So in this case, you just need to pass this employee data table to this method, and this method will take the responsibility of communicating with the database, take the responsibility of storing each row that is available inside this data table, right, with the database table called employees, right? So let me run this application and show you these things, right? So currently our database table doesn't have any data. Currently data is with our XML file, right? From the XML file, we are reading the data, we are filling the data set. As the XML file content, right, the employee data set position, What is this saying? Is there any issue? Let's verify the database table. Okay. So here we are provided the name as employees department data, and here we are providing the name as a data. So we need to close these things, right? What is happening? Let me close this one. It is currently being used. That is the reason why it is not aligned to update me, right? Let me open this file in Notepad, right? So you see the node name, you can give anything, right? There is no relation, right? No specific rules and regulation. You can give anything, but the child node, whatever name you provide, the data table is going to be created with the same name. Later, if you want, you can rename the table data table name, right? But not required, right? So now let me run the application, right? So you can see department list. You can see this is the department list and this is the employees list, right? ID name, location, ID name, gender, and department, right? So here, why we are seeing this data? Because we are using the forest to display the data table data. Right now, we need to verify the database whether the data are actually stored or not. Now you can see this is the department data departments table, and this is your employee table. So in this way, you can load the XML data to your .NET application. From .NET application, you can store those data into the database. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Right. So this is how you need to load the, and later we are going to discuss this XML file and the JSON file in detail, right? While we are discussing XML and the JSON, but in this case, our main focus is not XML. Our main focus, we are having one XML file, how we can load that XML file data into our database, right? There is a separate chapter called working with the XML and JSON, right? At that time, I will explain this XML data, right, in with the different schema, right, in detail. Right, but for now, just focus. You are just having one XML file, and your aim is to load those data into the database table. And here I'm using SqlBulkCopy class right now. Now, if I ask you this example, right, to be rewritten using other approaches, can you guys do this using storage procedure, using batch operation, SQL data adapter? Can you guys do this? Guys,
No.
yes or no? Can you guys do this by using storage procedure without using SQL bulk copy?
Yes, we can.
So for that, what you need to do? First of all, you need to create two table type parameter, right? So one table type parameter is to store the department data, another table type parameter to store the employee data. And then you need to create one storage procedure which is taking two parameter, one parameter for the department data, another parameter for the employee data, right? And then first you need to store the department information because department is the primary key table, and then you need to store the what information? Employee information. It's very simple. I don't understand why you are not why you guys are silent in this case. If I'm saying these things, then what is the difficulty? I don't understand. Right? You can do this by using more statement. Even you can do this without using more statement. In that case, you need to use join. Yes or no? Guys, anybody practices these things?
Yes.
Then why you guys are silent while I am asking any question to you? If you are able to do, then you can say yes, we can do. If you are unable to do, then you can simply say we cannot do. But silent means what? What I can understand if you guys are be silent in the classroom, whether you are understanding the concept or you are not understanding the concept, right? What I will understand. I have given 2 tasks. Only 1 people have done the task.
Sir, I done earlier one.
Yeah, so that is what say I see only 1 people provide I mean the example in the chat, right, in the group, but none of them yes, one example is there, but other people never try this thing also, right?
Yeah,
So you have to you have to take the classes seriously, right? So if I am explaining this concept, right? If I have already explained that we can I mean we can perform the bulk insert operation using 3 different approaches, right? So I'm not going to explain the same 3 different approaches in each and every time. I'm going to show you one approach. I will give you the task for the other 2 approaches. Right? So if we can perform bulk insert operation using storage procedure, using SqlBulkCopy and using SQL data adapter, right? Then then what is the problem? If I'm asking whether you can do this task or not, then why you are guys be silent? I don't understand. So this is the task number 3. This is the task number 3. You have to load this XML data to data adapter. From data adapter, using storage procedure, you need to store in the database, and using SQL data adapter batch operation, right? You need to store the data into the database, right? This is the task number 3, right? And until and unless I'm not getting any right, so until and unless, right, those who are new joining, this is not for them, but those who are attending the classes from the beginning, it is mandatory for them to do the task. Then only they can attend the entity framework sessions. It's not like that I'm only doing the hard work and I'm only doing the examples and you are guys only I mean what you guys are doing, I exactly don't know. You have to take the classes seriously, man. Once you do practices, once you understand the concept, and it is like that you can feel that yes, I know something, I can do the same example in a different manner, right? So why I'm showing 3 different options: SQL bulk copy, right, storage procedure, right, SQL data adapter, right? Why? Because once you have the scenario and you can try the same example in 3 different manner, then you can use the stopwatch, right? By using the stopwatch, you can measure, yeah, this is my data, this data is a heavy one, right? If I'm performing this using storage procedure, how much time it is taking? If I'm doing this using SqlBulkCopy Class, how much time it is taking? If I'm doing this SQL data adapter, right, how much time it is taking? Which is giving me the best performance, right? Accordingly, we will choose the appropriate one, right? Because at the end, right, if you are having 3 flavor, then which flavor I need to use? The flavor which is giving me better performance. Yes or no? And if you know the concept and if you are not utilizing that concept, then that doesn't make any sense. You have to first of all measure, right? You have to do the example, do the test the scenarios, which test the example by taking different scenarios, right? By taking different approaches, which giving you better performance, that you need to check, right? Okay, just tell me, yeah, Bhargav, what is your problem? Why you are not sending the, I mean, why you are not doing the task?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the other guys, okay? But I mean, I guess most of us work. I mean, we have to work in order to be able to eat. And in my case, it's over 10 hours a day. So I really take. I watch the videos and during the weekend. You see, and then we can give some time to this. But during the weekend, during the weekdays. And this for me is impossible. I mean, there is no way.
Okay,
that's my case. I don't know the others.
See, I understand your concern, but while you are attending the session, you are giving 2 hours to this session, right? Yesterday,
yeah, right. Yeah,
yesterday we took a break. Why? Because I want you guys to complete the task. Why didn't you do the same task in yesterday this time?
I had to sleep because I cannot sleep.
Bro,
Okay, you see I'm talking about my case. Okay, I live. I mean, you are having the class at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? For me, it's 9 o'clock in the night, and I already started at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
okay.
I just had a pill, a caffeine pill, in order to stay awake for the class.
Okay.
So when I got a chance to sleep, I sleep. That's my case. But don't worry. I mean, I like all these. I like the course, and I'm studying it in the measure of my possibilities.
Okay, that is fine. So in the weekend you can do the task, right? But what about the people who are from India? I can understand your timing is different, right? So, but those who are working, even though they have time, right? I don't think working means they are doing the work for all the time, right? They can give some time to this course, right? And if you are not doing practices, and if you are only giving the time in the training, and if you are not giving time to yourself outside the training time, right? Then doesn't make any sense.
So actually, in my case, I'm working in my office laptop, so I'm not able to install database. I'm not allowed to install the database there. So for C# example, I can execute those things in Visual Studio, but database I don't have. So I'm for the second example, I have like written the syntaxes and everything in the notepad. I'm trying to compile it whenever I get a chance.
So you do not have your personal laptop?
I have personal laptop, but there is like it is not up. Actually, it is not working. So currently,
why it is not working? What is the problem?
I mean, like the charger is not there, so it is giving some problem. So I'm waiting for that to start it. After that, I'll. And one more thing is I have not worked much on database, so I'm going through your SQL Server Database.
See, if you do not have any experience on database, right? That is not the issue. See, whatever I'm explaining in the classroom, at least you can do that much, na?
Yeah, I have done. I mean, like I'm practicing that store procedures and all the things in Visual Studio.
Okay, in your company laptop, they are not allow you to install SQL Server on your local machine.
Yes, they are not allowed.
Okay, guys, but be practice, right? Because until and unless you are not doing practices, it will not make any sense, right? And Bhargav, be ready, because why I'm saying, because not only the next 15 or 20 days, right? 3 weeks or something like this, we are going to discuss entity framework, right? That is also completely dependent on database. And these are the advanced concept, right? Until and unless you are not doing the practices, right? It doesn't make any sense. Right, in this case we are writing some of the code, SQL code we are creating storage procedure, right? But once you start entity framework, these things are also not going to be happen, right? Entity framework is very, very important. So I can yeah, local DB you can also use Bhargav. That is also available in Visual Studio, right? So
I didn't get this. I mean, like without installing anything.
Yeah, in Visual Studio it's not required, right? Just try search internet how to use local DB in Visual Studio. You will get the information, right? You can also work with your local DB. Even if you required, I will take one class, right? I will explain you how to use local DB.
Okay.
Right. So that's okay, fine. But guys, be ready. So from the day one, I'm saying be ready with your SQL Server, right? Because before starting ADO.NET, I told this thing many times. Be ready with your SQL Server database, because without a database, right? If you are not installing database on your machine, right, then it's very difficult, right, to understand these things, right? Because whatever documents is there, document is in the document, right? Apart from document, many things I'm explaining, right? How to use SQL profiler, right? How to use performance monitor. These things are not available in the document, right? And it's not, if once this class completed after 1 month, right? If you identify if you see the document, you only see the document what is available. But what we have discussed in the class, in that you you will not understand, right? You will forget those things, right? So whatever explaining and whatever we are discussing in the same day, you have to do practices in the same day, right? Okay. So this is how you can load the XML data and store in the database table, right? The next what we are going to discuss, SQL injection and how you can prevent SQL injection in .NET applications using C#, right? So anybody tell me what do you mean by SQL injection, and what are the different options available in .NET framework to prevent SQL injections?
SQL injection is the thing that the attacker can able to attack our database directly while the connection is open. So we can prevent it by using a parameterized query rather than a simple SQL query.
Right. So basically SQL injection means it is an attack, right, to the hacker or the attacker, right, by using. So if you are designing your application in such a manner, right, which allows the user to enter the SQL script from the UI, and if that SQL script is directly going to be executed in the database, right, then the attacker can do the attacker can damage your database, right? And if you are writing that kind of code, means you are opening a hole, right, for the attacker, for the hacker to inject some SQL code into your database, and those SQL code are going to be executed in the database, right? And that is nothing but SQL injection attack, right? So according to MSDN, SQL injection is an attack in which malicious code. So whenever I'm saying malicious code, means you need to understand this is nothing but SQL code. SQL statement, you can also say SQL statement is inserted into strings, right, that are later passed to SQL Server Database for execution. So what exactly happening now? We are having one text box, or from a console application, we are asking the user to enter the name, right? Whenever the user enter the name, whenever the user enter the data in the text box, in our .NET application, we are storing that information. We are storing that value what the user entered as a string, right? And later we are passing that string to the database for execution, right? And if that string, right, whatever the user entered contains some malicious code, then that code is also going to be executed in the database, right? This is nothing but your SQL injection attack, right? And if you think that this is an application layer attack, which means front-end attack, right? Front-end attack means from the UI only this attack is going to be happen, right? And this is possible because of a poor coding of your application code, and this allows hackers to insert SQL commands into our code, that is using SQL statement, right? So as a developer or a programmer, we should check and prevent SQL injection in our application code. So a few points to remember while working with the SQL injection. SQL injection is a SQL code injection technique that might be destroy your database. Might be destroy in the sense it might be delete the database table. It might be delete the complete data in the database table. It might be bypass the login mechanism of a user, right? These kind of things can happen using SQL injection. So you can inject some statement, drop table name, and if that statement is executed on the database, then what will happen? That table is going to be dropped. If you are writing delete from table name, right, then all the data from the table is going to be deleted, right? So you can also write some double quotes, right? Double, you can say hyphen, right? And after double hyphen, you can provide the, you can prepare the query in such a way that it can bypass the login mechanism, right? So SQL injection is one of the most common web hacking techniques. SQL injection is the process of injecting malicious code in SQL statement via web page input, right? So from the web page, from the website, right, if you are taking the input, right, using that input, if you are injecting the SQL code, right, malicious SQL code, and if that SQL code is going to be executed in the database. Means you are opening the hole for the attacker to inject some SQL statement, and this is nothing but your SQL injection, right? So what we will discuss? We'll discuss first what is SQL injection. We have discussed what is SQL injection. We'll discuss how SQL injection work, right? We'll see one example where we'll inject some SQL queries and that is going to be executed in the database. And later I will show you how we can prevent SQL injection attack in C#, right? Right. So for this, what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to give you one example directly. Right, so we have discussed SQL injection means that you are going to inject via the user input, right? So via the user input, and if you are storing that input in some kind of a variable, and if you are passing that variable data, right, variable value to the database, and that value, if it is going to executed in the database, then SQL injection attack is going to be happen, right? Let us understand this with an example, right? Suppose we are asking the user, and we are asking the user, hey user, please suppose okay, let me give you, suppose I'm having this database table. I'm having this ID, name, price, and quantity available, and here I'm providing the option to the user to search the data based on the mobile and laptop, right? So I'm asking, hey Mr. User, please enter the search string. If the user entering the search string as mobile, then I need to return, and I need to display these three product in the UI. If the user enter the search string as a laptop, right, then I will display these three data inside the UI, right? So the search string is going to be mobile, or search string is going to be laptop, and we need to prepare the string in such a way that if the user entered mobile, I need to return this three information. If the user enter laptop, I need to enter this three information, right? So in this case, right, so let me show you these things practically. Right, so right, okay, let me comment all these things, right? So in this case, right, if you look at this syntax, right, so what I'm entering, right, select star from products where name equals to this. Okay, let me first create the database. Right, so if you look at this table right now, it is containing the product information. Let's start from products. Right, this is the data what I'm showing in the UI. Right, now I need to search the data based on the search string as mobile or search string as laptop, right? So suppose I'm preparing the string like this. If I'm preparing the string like this, right, so what will happen, I'm asking the user, hey user, please enter the search string, and from the UI the user going to enter either mobile or laptop, and whatever value he entered, I'm storing that value inside this variable, and then I'm preparing my dynamic query, right? So in this case, the query is going to be prepared dynamically, and that query is going to be executed in the database, right? So let me run this application and see how exactly it is going to work. Right, so I'm entering mobile. Enter the search string. I'm asking the user to enter the search string. The user enter mobile, right? Once the user entered the mobile, right, then what is the query? So the way we are preparing the query using the variable directly, say in this case, select star from products where name like whatever value you entered, that will be ended with this with this percentile symbol, right? So you can see, you can visualize. So this is how the query is generated. Select star from products where name like mobile percentile. That means you have to return all the product from the products table where name is started with the mobile with the word mobile, and that that can contain any number of characters, right? So this is the string that is generated, right? So now if you look at this example, so this is going to be executed and it is going to return me the data as expected. That is absolutely fine right now. So if you look at this syntax, right, the way we are creating the query, you can see whatever the user entered, that I'm storing as a in a string variable, and I'm using that string value to prepare my dynamic query. And then once the query is prepared, I'm executing that query inside the database, right? So here I will show you, but for now I'm just showing how it is exactly the query generated and how it is exactly executed. So now you can see the query is generated like this, and when I'm executing this query, I'm getting the output as expected. Now you might be happy, yes, my business, yes, for what purpose I created the application that is working fine. That is what you might be thinking. But the way we are preparing the code, it makes a hole for the attacker to inject some SQL code, and that code is going to be executed in the database. This is very bad. The way we are preparing the dynamic query by using this string variable, it's very dangerous, right? So it might be, I mean, it might be possible that you can inject, right, some data into the database, right? Not data, you can execute some malicious code, right, inside your database, right? How it can possible, right? Now let me run the application. Now instead of mobile, what I'm entering mobile or semicolon, then I'm writing a delete from products, then I'm using double hyphen. So in this case, what will happen? Let me first run these things and let me copy the code. Let me check the what SQL query it is generated, right? So this is the SQL query it is generated, right? Now let me take this to the UI, right? So guys, you have to remember how many SQL statements are there?
Two.
Right? So guys, whenever it find a semicolon, right? Whenever it find a semicolon means it is the end of the statement. Semicolon means whatever statement you have written, this is another statement and this is another statement. Before semicolon, one statement. After semicolon, one statement. And what is the use of this double hyphen? This is nothing but your comment line, right? In SQL Server, if you want to comment something, right? So suppose, for example, this is comment, right? So inside this statement, you can write. So if I put this, so this becomes a comment. So inside this, so I put these things means this ampersand, this percentile symbol, it becomes a comment, right? So now from the UI, we are entering a string. By using that string, we are preparing our query, and that query is going to be executed in the database. But remember, from the UI, the user injects some SQL statement. The user injects some statement, and the way we are preparing our SQL query, that SQL statement is going to be executed in the database or not. So once you execute this statement, what will happen? The data is going to be deleted or not? So now if you check, right, this select star from product table, then you will see the data is deleted. This is nothing but your SQL injection attack, right? So let me do one thing, right? So let me insert these records once more, right? And let me do this thing from the SQL Server point of view, right? Sorry, from the using the C#, right? Here I have manually execute the statement. Now I'm going to do the same thing using from my SQL, from my .NET application, right? So this is my database connection string. I'm asking the user to enter the string, right? Search string. And then by taking that search string, I'm preparing my dynamic SQL, right? So prepare the dynamic SQL query with the input taken from the user. This is a bad way of constructing query. Never ever use the variable directly as part of your query, right? If you are using this like this, then this will open the door for SQL injection attack, right? So once the query is generated, I'm creating the command object, right? I'm providing the command text as this SQL query. I'm using this connection object, right? Whatever I'm setting, then I'm opening the connection and then I'm executing the command. And in this case, I expect that the query is going to return me more than one record. So I'm using SQL Reader and I'm reading the data one by one, right? So now run the application. Right. So I'm using the word laptop. Right. So you can see I'm getting the data as expected. Right. Now let me run the application once more and let me get that delete statement query. Right. So I'm just copying these things, right? I'm entering these things, right? Currently, my database having data, right? If you look at this table, then you will see that the database having some data, right? Now, I click on the enter button. See, I'm not getting any data because the data is deleted from the database. Then what it is going to return? How you are saying that data is deleted? Go and check the database. If you go and check the database, sorry, why I'm the one record? Because this statement executed by mistake, right? That means what? That the data is deleted. Okay, let me run this application once more. Right now, if you check, even you will see the data is not there, right? So this is nothing but your SQL injection attack. So the way we are constructing the dynamic query, right, by taking the string variable value which is entered by the user, it makes an hole for the attacker to inject some SQL query, and that SQL query is going to be executed in the database thing. And now you can imagine how dangerous it is, right? So in this case, I'm creating this one, right? I'm deleting the data. So instead of a delete, if the user write drop table name, then what will happen? The database is the table is going to be deleted, right? So you have to avoid this kind of things, right? This kind of coding you should avoid. You should never use the code. You should never create the select statement like this. So if you are creating the dynamic SQL query by using the variable, right, string variable, then you will get this kind of issues. So instead of this, what you need to do? You have to prevent this SQL injection attack in your application, right? So you should not use this query, this variable directly as part of your select statement, right? Then what is the solution? Then how we can avoid this SQL injection attack, right? We can avoid SQL injection attack in .NET framework in two ways, right? What are the way? Now, first way is by using, right? First way is by using query string parameter, and the second way is by using, right, what storage procedure, right? So let me show you these things first. Let me first execute this statement so that the data is going to be there, right? So let me insert the records. So records are inserted, right? Once the record are inserted, you can verify the things, right? Now, what is my requirement? I'm going to use, right, query string parameter to handle these things, right? So how to use query string parameter? Let me show you. So in this case, you can see instead of preparing, right? Instead of preparing the query like this, right? So in previous example, if you look at how we are preparing the query, means we are preparing the query like this, right? In previous example, I have prepared the query like this, right? But in this example, I'm not using that variable directly while preparing the query. Rather than I'm using a query parameterized query. So in this case, this is a parameter, right? And for this parameter, you have to provide the value, and you know how to do that. You are creating the command object by passing the SQL query and the connection object. As this SQL query contains one parameter, then you need to add that parameter with its associated value to the parameter collection of this command object. And you know that, right? We can create this parameter using two ways. By using the SQL parameter object, or you can also directly add the query and its I mean the parameter and its associated value directly by using this add with value method, right? So in this case, what is the use? So here you are using add with value method to add the value for this @name query parameter. So this is my query parameter. So whenever we created something using the symbol, means it is a parameter, and for that parameter you need to pass the value. And here I'm passing the value search string, right? And then I'm appending this value with the word percentile, right? So that any value that is I mean from that, so there is no limitation on the number of words, right? So it will return all the data, right? All the product from the products table, which is started with the query string what you are providing, the value what you are providing, right? Then you have to specify the command type as text. You need to open the connection, and then you need to execute the command, right? By using the execute reader, and then you need to display the data. We have already discussed this thing, right? So let me run this application. Right. So now I'm entering mobile. So I'm getting the data. Right now I'm going to enter that statement, right? Right. So let me close this one. Let me run this one. Right now to see what kind of query it is generated now. So you can open this tools SQL profiler, right? And inside this SQL profiler connect, right? Click connect. Right now from the UI I'm entering this thing, and once I enter this thing, just press enter button, right? And once you press enter button, you can see you are not getting any data, and the reason why I'm not getting any data is because of this thing. So this is the statement which is executed in the database. Right now copy this statement, go to your database and paste it there. So what is the statement? It's going to execute select star from product where name like name, right? And name is a worker whose character is 33, and the value is going to be this one. So in this case, right, in this case, it will not treat it as a different statement, right? Rather, it will treat it as a single value, right? So something similar to like this. So mobile, right? So instead of this semicolon, right? So it is using like this. Right? It is use something like this. Now, if you run this application, you will not get any data, and the data is not going to be deleted, because in this case, this is just a value, right? This is not a different statement, and this is a value, and this value is for this parameter, right? So in this case, it will not treat this delete star from product and all these things as a different statement. It is only going to check this is the value the user is supplying, and this value I need to check against this name column. And in the name column, there is no column which started with this value, and hence it is not returning me the data. But if you check the database table, the data is still going to be there. Clear, guys? So now it's simply a value. It is not a different statement altogether, which is going to check against this name column. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So this is one of the approach, right? Another approach is you can make use of storage procedure, which I generally prefer, right? I generally not interested to write SQL queries, right, on my database. Rather, I always interested, right? I'm interested. See, you can see this is the SQL script which is generated, right? I'm always interested to write the queries inside my database using storage procedure, right? So let me delete all these things, right? Let me create a storage procedure. See, this is a storage procedure. You can see get product by name, the storage procedure taking one parameter, and here it is using select star from product where name like this, right? This is my storage procedure, right? Let me create the storage procedure. Once you create the storage procedure, now you guys tell me what are the changes I need to do. I need to use this as my.
You need to change the command type as.
So command, this SQL query is not required anymore, right? So what you need to do, you can directly pass, sorry, not here. You have to pass that here, right? And you need to pass that @name as it is here, right? And here you need to change this command type as storage procedure. This is the only change. And here plus symbol is not required anymore because we have managed that in our storage procedure. Clear? Right? This is the changes. First of all, you need to provide the instead of a query, SQL query, you have to provide the procedure name. And this procedure expect one parameter, that name is going to be @name. That value you need to pass here. And this is not a SQL statement, it's a storage procedure. So you have to specify the command type as storage procedure. Right? With these changes, now if you run the application, then also you will not find any kind of a SQL injection attack. Right? Let me copy these things. Right? Let me copy this one. Let me go to this and I'm entering this value. Even I'm not getting data because there is no product available in the products table, which is started with this letter, this thing, right? And if you check the database table, you will see the data as expected, right? There is no deletion happening in the database, right? Now, if you provide the appropriate value, right, then you will get the data, right? So I'm providing mobile, and you can see mobile data it is fetching from the database and showing in the UI. Is that clear? What is SQL injection attack and how you can prevent SQL injection?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Sir.
Any question from anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, in all mean SQL store procedure is always safe from SQL injection.
Yes, 100%. Right, 100%. And SQL injection not only safe, but also it is going to give you better performance.
So we can say we can do each and everything from store procedure.
Yes, that is absolutely fine. You can do anything. You can write a select statement inside of the delete statement, right? Whatever you want, you can do using storage procedure. And the storage procedure, not only they are safe, right, but also they are giving you better performance, right? If you are using SQL statement and executing, right, then every time you execute the SQL statement, right, the I mean the parsing is there, right? The query plan generation is there, then the statement is going to be executed. But storage procedure, pre-compiled queries, the syntax is not going to be checked again and again. The query plan execution is not going to happen again and again. The query plan is already genetically stored in the cache. From the cache, it will fetch the query plan and directly it will execute the statements. This is and this is one of the advantages of using storage procedure. Another advantage is that the number of if you are preparing a big SQL statement by doing some kind of joining operation, then amount of a string that you are sending over the internet, right? And if you are using a storage procedure and you just need to send the procedure name, then you can compare the amount of code, right? So in this case, previously we are sending these things, right? Previously we are preparing the query like this, then the number of characters, and here the number of a character is going to be 100% less, right? Number of a data less in the internet network means it is also going to give you better performance, right? And suppose some hacker he hack your query string, right? Then he might be able to know what table you are using in your database, right? So from this he can see, yes, there is a table called product, right? But the hacker, if he had this storage procedure name, then he will not get any information. What is the table name? What is the database name? What is the column name, right? He will not get any information, even though if he know this procedure name only. Clear?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So the last part or the last thing of ADO.NET is SQL command builder. So we have already discussed SQL command. So can anybody tell me why we are using SQL command object?
It is used to build a query and
Right.
the connection.
Right. So basically, if you want to prepare the SQL query and if you want to execute the SQL command over the database, then you need SQL command object, right? And apart from SQL command, we have something called SQL command builder. What is this? This is also a data. This is also a class, right? And this class is basically a help us to generate, right, SQL statements automatically based on the select command, right? Based on the select command, this class, this object is going to generate the insert, update, and the delete commands automatically, right? So you can see the ADO.NET SQL command object, right, automatically generate insert, update, and delete SQL statement based on the select statement for a single table, right? For the select statement of a single table, right? So basically, if you remember, right, in our SQL server, we are having something called simple view, or you can say updatable view and complex view. If you created a view based on a single database table, right, then you can perform insert, update, delete operation using that view. Am I right or wrong? Anybody having any experience related to SQL Server views?
Yep.
Yes.
Right. If your view is created based on a single table, then on that view, can I perform the DML operations?
No.
No. Why?
You can have an updatable view.
Yeah, update. See, if updatable view means what? If your view is created on a single table, then it's an updatable view. If the view is created on multiple tables, then it depends on the condition, what you are updating, right? If the updation is affecting one table or the updation is affecting two tables. If it is affecting one table, then it updates the data. But you cannot give guarantee the data is updated properly or not. If the update affected two tables, then you cannot update the data. But if your view is created on a single database table, then updation is happening, right? You can insert, update, delete data, right, using that view, right? The same thing is here, right? The SQL command builder object is going to generate the insert, update, and the delete statement automatically. Automatically, the insert, update, delete statement is going to be generated. But the condition is that if the select, right, if the command builder object is created, right, if the statement, right, what you are written, if it is returning the data from a single table, and that is to if the data written by the select statement should include some unique column. Unique in the sense that might be your primary key, or that might be your unique key column. Then only, right, it is going to generate the insert, update, and delete statements automatically. How it is going to generate it? Based on the steps, right? If you are updating some row, right, then it is going to generate the update statement automatically. If you are deleting some row in the data table, right, then it is going to generate the delete statement automatically. If you are inserting some new row into the data table, then it is going to generate the insert statement automatically, right? How it is going to perform? Let's see, right? So in order to use SQL command builder object to generate the insert, update, delete statement automatically, we need to follow two steps. What are the steps? First of all, you need to use data adapter, right? Why data adapter? Because I need to fill the data table, right? So you have to use data adapter, and I am going to work in disconnected oriented architecture. For that purpose, I'm using data adapter. Once you use the data adapter, then inside this adapter object, there is a property called command object select command, and inside this select command, you need to store one command object. This is nothing but your command object, which I am storing inside the select command property of data adapter. And this SQL command, while I'm creating, as we know, so while creating an instance of a SQL command, two things is required. One thing is the statement that you want to execute, right? Another string is the connection object where you want to execute this select statement, or where you want to execute this SQL statement, right? So in this case, you can see this command object, what I'm created, it is pointing to a single database table, not more than one database, no join, nothing else, only one database table, right? And why I'm saying only one database table is required, because as per command builder, you only generate the insert, update, delete command if the select statement what you have created is fetching data from a single table. And in this case, the statement is fetching data from a single database table. Once you create the data adapter object, and once you set the select command, right, which is pointing to the command object, and the command object is pointing command object having the command text, right, which is fetching the data from a single database table, then what I need to do is I need to, in the second step, I need to create an instance of a command builder, SQL command builder. And in this SQL command builder, there is a property called data adapter. And with this data adapter property, I need to store this instance. These two statements, right, whatever I'm showing here, you can simplify by using a single SQL single statement, right? So what do we need to do? Now, to this constructor, this command builder constructor, I just need to pass this data adapter object, right? So once this data adapter is associated with this command builder instance, right, then based on the status, right, if you are doing some update statement, right, if you are updating some data, so it is going to automatically generate the update command. If you are doing some delete operation, automatically delete is going to be generated. If it is doing some insert, then automatically insert command is going to be generated by the SQL command builder when you call the update method on this data adapter instance, right? Okay, okay. So I know you are having some doubt, right? But once we start discussing the program, right, you will understand this thing very clearly, right? Let me first create the database, right? Employee DB is already there. Let me delete that database, right? Let me create a fresh employee DB. So you can see this is my database name. I'm using that database. Within the database, I'm creating the employee database table having 5 columns: ID, name, gender, salary, and the department. The ID column is the unique key. So how I'm saying that it is my unique key? If you are using primary key, the primary key is nothing but the combination of two things. What are the things? The unique plus not null. That means you need at least one unique column. And that unique column in my case is the ID column, right? And then I'm insert, and guys, you can remember, I'm also making this key as identity. Identity means it is the value for this column is going to be automatically generated by the SQL server. And here I'm not providing any starting position or sheet value, right? Increment value. So by default, it is going to start from 1. And each time it is going to increment, right? For the next row, it is going to increment the value by 1. So in this case, for this value, the ID is 1. For this ID is 2, 3, 4, like this, right? So let me execute this statement. So why I'm getting this? Okay. Right. So the employee data table, employee DB database is created, and it is also creating the employee table and filling the employee table with the required data. Right now, you can verify the data. Yes, the data you can see the data is like this. Right. So this is my data. 10 records are there. Some IT department employees, some HR department employees, some male, female employees, and name and ID with some salary values, right? Now my requirement is what? Now my requirement is I need to write some query, right? Using SQL command builder, and that query, right? That code is going to generate the insert, update, and delete command for us behind the scene. I'm not going to write any insert, update, or delete command. Rather, I will make sure the command builder object to generate the command, right? Let me copy this thing and let me explain this thing so that you will get some idea, right? First of all, this is my command and this is my SQL data adapter. I'm creating this SQL data adapter object here, right? And to this SQL data adapter object, right, what I'm passing this, you can see this is my command text and this is my connection object. This is my command text in the sense what? This command is going to be executed on the database and it is going to return me the employee table data. And you can see here I'm using a single database table. I'm not using multiple database table. I'm using a single database table to fetch the data, right? So once your data adapter is ready, then what you need to do? You need to provide this data adapter, right? So guys, you might be confusing, right? So what confusion is there? You might be confusing, sir. Here you are creating the data adapter object like this, right? And here you are using a different options, right? Both are going to be same, guys, right? In this case, right, if you are using this full statement, that is also fine, right? So new data adapter, and here I'm creating a SQL command object right now. You can also specify this thing here, right? There is no issue, right? Both are going to be same, right? Why I'm preparing this? In a single statement, I'm doing this thing, right? Here here I just need to specify the select command, which is pointing to this one, and internally this thing is going to be done by this constructor, right? So as I have explained this thing in the UI, sorry, from the documentation, I'm providing both the options, right? Whichever option you like, you can go with that option. But from the syntax point of view, the above one looks me better, right? So I can go with this syntax, right? Once you create the data adapter object, right, what is the next step? The next step is we need to associate this data adapter instance with the SQL command builder, right? And this is also going to be done in two ways, right? So what are the two ways, right? Let me show you. So first of all, you need to prepare the SQL command builder object, right? So this is the command builder, right? Let me give this as, let me comment this one. This is my command builder. And to the adapter property, I'm associating this data adapter instance. This is the two statements what I'm doing. The same two things are going to be done by the single statement. So what we need to do, you just need to pass the data adapter instance to the constructor like this, right? So here I'm not using the select command additionally. Here I'm not using this data adapter additionally. Rather, I'm just passing that command directly to the instance, and here I'm passing the data adapter object directly to the SQL command builder constructor, right? So once you have done these things, right, then I'm creating a data set. I'm filling the data set. So in this case, this data set is filled with one data table, right? Because this select statement, what is there, right? It is going to return me a data table, and that data table is filled, right? Data set means what? Internally, it is going to use data table, right? And what is the data table? Data table means the index position is going to be 0, right? So you have created the data set, you have filled the data set. If you want to check the data of that data set, right, then you can use this syntax, data set dot tables 0. So in this case, you are having a single select statement. Single select statement means the data set having a single database, single data table. If you are having multiple select statement, then this data set having multiple data table. But in this case, single select statement means single data table. And that data table you can access by using the index position 0. We have already discussed this data set and data table concept, right? And then once you fetch the data, you can access the data by using the column name, or you can also access the data by using the integer index position. First index position ID is going to be 0, second name is going to be 1, gender is going to be 2, salary 3, and department 4. So name ID equals to 0, name 1, salary 2. I can access the value by using the string column name or integer index position, right? I'm showing you both the options, right? Now, up to now, that is fine. Up to now, you know these things, right? But up to now, now our main intention will come into the picture. What is our main agenda? Our main agenda is we will want this command builder to prepare the insert, update, and delete command for us. But when it is going to prepare the command? Now, whenever our data table, right, inside our data table, we are going to add some new row. In our data table, we are going to, or you can say inside our data set, right, we are going to update some existing data, or we are going to delete some row, right? Whenever we are performing those operations in memory, right? And then we want this command builder, right? We want this command builder to build the required SQL statement for us. And for that purpose, we are using command builder, right? Let us first update right? From the data, right? Whatever data returned by the select statement, right? From that data, I want to return the first, I want to update the first row. How you can access the first row? What is the index position? The index position is going to be 0, right? So from this data set, from the first table, fetch the first row. So 0 means first table, 0 means first row. So once you fetch the data row, then I'm going to update the row. So I'm going to update the name, assigning a name updated, gender, female, salary, is this, department is payroll. So I'm updating the data row, right? Once you update the data row, right, then what you need to do, you just need to call the update method of the data adapter object. So update method of the data adapter object. And as this data adapter object is associated with the command builder, the command builder will check whether this data table, what I'm passing here, the data table name, what I'm passing here, that is available inside this data set. Yes, that is available. And if it is available, then is that data set table, right? Inside that data set, whatever data table you are assigning, is that data table having some rows which are updated? Yes, one row is updated. Yes, if updated, let me generate the update command, right? And in that case, the SQL command builder will generate the update command. And if you want to see, right, if you want to see what update command is generated and executed by this data adapter, right? So you can use command builder.get update command text. So this command builder.get update command property will generate the update command, and this command text is going to be returned. So you can see, you can verify what update command is generated by the command builder that is going to be executed by the data adapter, right? And here, right, if the update operation successful, right, if any row are updated in the database, then it will return me the number of rows affected. And if it is equals to 0, means no rows are updated. If it is greater than 0, if it is not equals to 0 or greater than 0, right, then it will show me some integer number which indicates how many rows are updated, and that count I'm showing here. So this is how you can generate the update command right now. Now the next thing is I'm going to insert some new row into the data table, right? First of all, you need to fetch the data table. So how many data tables are there? One data table, two data table based on your select query. But as SQL data adapter, right, command builder, it is going to work on a single data table. Right, means your query should contain a single select statement, right? So in this case, right, so what you will do first, so first what we need to do, first we need to fetch the data table. And how you can fetch now, dataset.tables. So this is my data table, first data table. In using this data table, I'm creating a new row. We have already discussed, once you call this new row method, it is going to create a new row based on the data columns of this data table. So my new row is created, and inside this new row, I'm adding the name, gender, salary, and the department properties. I'm not interested to add the ID column. Why? ID column is identity. Identity means what? It is automatically going to be generated. Once I add a new row, that row ID will become here 11. So that is not required, right? So name is given, gender is given, salary is given, department is given. Once I create the new row, then what I need to do, I need to add this new row inside my employee data table. How you are going to add? Employee data table dot rows dot add, and using this add method, I can add a new row inside the rows collection. So now this employee data table, right, or you can say the data, so we have added a new row. And this employee data table, it is nothing but the one of the first table, the first data table of this data set. Right now, I'm calling the update method. I'm passing the data set, and I'm passing the table name, which contains the newly added row. So in this case, this update method, right, before executing this update method, this command builder will come into the picture, right? Command builder object will check, right? Whatever the data set and whatever the data table you specify, is that data table having some modified data, modified in the sense having some new data, updated data, or delete data. In this case, it will find that yes, one new data row is there, and as it is content a new data row, so automatically it is going to generate the insert command. right? So it will automatically going to generate the insert command. As this is a new row you are adding to the data table, and for this new row, what command we need? We need insert command, right? So this the command builder, right? It is going to generate the insert command for us, right? So insert command for us, and you can see the insert command, right, by calling the get insert command method dot command text properties, right? And if the insert, right, whatever the insert command it is generated, that will be printed here, right? And if you want, to check whether is there any record inserted or not, then you can check this if else condition. If it returns 0 means no rows inserted. If it is written some value, then how many number of rows inserted, that value I'm printing here. Next thing is that I want to delete the row which is there in the index position 2. Index position 2 means the third row. Third row means in this case what data we are returning? We are returning the all the employees where gender is male. So then gender is male means what is the data? Okay. So let me write this thing where gender equals to male. So this is the query we are executing from our application, right? For this query, right? So this is my ID first row, this is my second row, this is my third row. Third row means what is the ID value? 4, right? So that row is going to be deleted, right? So that row is, sorry, here I'm passing the index position 2. Index position 2 means 0, 1, 2. This is index position 2, whose ID is 4. So this row is going to be deleted, right? So what I'm trying to do, I'm dataset dot tables 0 dot row 2. So from this data table, from this table, this row number I'm going to delete. This is the meaning of this statement. So dataset having more than, it might be possible than more than one table, but in this case, which table you are interested? I'm interested with the table which index position is 0. So in this case, 0. So instead of 0, you can also type what is table. This is also possible. Yes or no? Right?
Yes.
Right, because the by default data set providing the table name as table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, like this, right? So you can go with this syntax or you can go with the index position, right? From this data set, from this table, please select the row number, right, whose index position is 3, sorry, index position is 2, and delete that row. So from this data set, right, so this is row number 1, index position 0, index position 1, and index position 2. So this Rakesh Kumar entry, right, it will delete. And once it delete, then again you have to do the same thing. You have to call the update method. And in this case, the SQL command builder will check this data table, right, which is available inside this data set, and will check what it will check. Is there any insert, update, delete happening in the data table? Yes, there is a delete. Okay, let me generate the delete command. And once it generates the delete command, that delete command is going to be updated by this data adapter. And if you want to see what delete command it is generated, right, then you can use this syntax command builder delete command text. And if rows are deleted, then it is going to return me 0. If no rows are deleted, right, it is going to return me 0. If some rows are deleted, then the value is not equals to 0. And in that case, how many rows are deleted? That is what I'm printing here right now. Guys, any question from this before executing the example? Can anybody having any question? No rising. Anyone else? No. Clear? Guys?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, what is the benefit of this kind of command builder?
See, the benefit is that I don't know whether I mean, so in this case, see, the benefit is that you are not generating the command, right? The command is going to be generated by the framework only. So instead of doing the task by you, you are making the task to be done automatically. So which is going to be good.
Got it.
Got it? So in this case, I'm not writing any insert, update, delete command. The command is going to be automatically generated by the .NET framework, right? And the command, the script, what the .NET framework or command builder will generate, that is the more efficient one, right? Rather, more efficient ones, and those are going to be executed on the database. So in this case, simply since you can say, I'm not writing the command, I'm saving my time. The things are going to be written by the .NET framework. So see, you can compare this thing, ADO.NET with the Entity Framework. ADO.NET, we are using everything we are going to write. Entity Framework, we are using, we are not going to write the code. We will tell the Entity Framework to write the code. So here we are doing the same thing. Here we are not writing the insert, update, delete command. We are telling the .NET Framework to generate the insert, update, and delete command. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now run the application. Right. So you can see the data 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is the data which is written by my select query. Then this is the update command, right? This is the insert command, and this is the delete command which is generated by the .NET framework, right? So, right. So this is my update command. You can see this is my update command. This statement is generated by the SQL Server, right? The .NET framework to execute on the SQL Server. And you can see one row updated insert command. This is the command generated by the .NET framework, and this is the delete command which is generated by the .NET framework, right? So I have not copied this one. Okay, right? So these are the things which is generated by the .NET framework automatically, right? And now if you verify the database, right, whatever updations we have done, let me open a new query window and execute the statement, right? So Anurag Mohanty, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, right? So, right. So why I'm not getting this record 1? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me why I'm not getting this record 1? I have changed the gender, right? The gender change means what is the gender now becomes female, right? So if you, okay, let me let me run this query and see the gender 1, name updated female, 500 payroll, right? So this is the data what you have updated in the first row, right? That is affected here or not? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right. The second thing is that we have inserted a new row, right? New row we have inserted with the name Pranaya Rout, right? Is there any? Is that new row is added in the result sheet? Yes, it is added. What is the index position? What is the ID? ID is 11, right? Because already we have 10 elements, 11 is added, right? So you can see that 11 is also added here. So updation is successful, insertion is successful, and then we have deleted one row, right? Which row we have deleted? We have deleted the row which index position is ID. So from this is collection, this is the index position which ID is 2, right? Sorry, ID is 4, index position 2. So that means this ID, right, 4 should be deleted from this collection, right? 1, 2, 3, then 5. 4 is it deleted or not? Right? So this is how you can perform, right, SQL command builder to generate the command for us. Any question from anyone? Guys?
No question.
Right. So sometimes what happens now, the SQL command builder is not working, right? So sometimes you will get some kind of error, right? Why we are getting the error? Why this update is not working? Let us try to understand, right? The first thing is that if you are not associating command builder object with SQL data adapter object, right? So what it means, now it means if you are commenting this one, if you are not associating this data adapter to the command builder, then this object is not going to work, right? So let me comment these things. Let me comment these things. Let me comment these things, right? So now if you run the application, right, then you will see that it will give you an exception. Why? Because the you are updating the data, right? But the command object is not there. So update requires a valid update command when past data row collection is modified. And in this case, valid update command. You need to pass a valid update command, but you are not passing valid update command, and your data row is modified. This is the reason why it is throwing me an exception, and why it is not generated automatically, because you are not associating that adapter object to any command builder which is going to generate the command for us, right? So if you are not associating, then it is not going to generate the command for us, right? And the select command that is associated doesn't return at least one primary key or unique key column, right? So in this case, right, so suppose instead of this, right, so if you are not selecting this ID column, or any unique column is not selected from the data from your database, right, then again it is going to throw you the exception, right? So you need to remember two things. So first one is you should associate your data adapter to the command builder, and second thing, your select query should and must include the unique key column. That unique key column means it might be a primary key or it might be a unique key. Now in the interview they might be asked you this question: what is the difference between SQL command and SQL command builder, right? The ADO.NET SQL command object is used to execute SQL statement and to procedure, right, against the database, right? So basically what it can say, now if you want to execute some storage procedure, some SQL statement, right? SQL means insert, update, delete, any kind of statement you want to execute, even you want to execute storage procedure, then you can use this SQL command, and the syntax is like this. So first of all, you need to create the command object, then you need to write the SQL statement or storage procedure name, and then you have to, based on your requirement, you have to call the execute non-query, execute reader, and execute scalar method. So this is how your SQL command object. And then what is SQL command builder? And the SQL command builder object automatically generate the insert, update, and delete statement based on the select statement for a single table, right? So basically in this case, you have to write the TSQL statement or storage procedure. Everything you can execute by using command object. And command builder means if you want to automatically generate the insert, update, and delete statement, then you need to use the command builder object. And to use command builder object, what you need to specify the data adapter object, right? First of all, you should have the data adapter object, and then you need to associate that data adapter object to the command builder object. So you can write like this, or right, so these two statement you can write, or in a single statement you can also write like this, right? So whatever option you want, you can go with that option. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So with this, we have completed our ADO.NET chapters, right? So we have discussed introduction, SQL Server. So all these things we have discussed, right? So if anything is missing, then you can let me know. I can also cover that as well. But for my experience, most of the things, right, what is required, we have covered almost all these things. Can we use storage procedure in command builder? No. See, command builder, how you can? Command builder, you just need to associate your data adapter to the command builder. And the command builder is going to be generate the insert, update, and delete statements, right? We are not generating anything manually. The command builder is going to generate the insert, update, and delete statements manually. And that is only possible when your select statement contains a single database table, right? Anyone having any question?
No questions, sir.
Okay. And guys, please do the 3 tasks what assigned to you, because see, if you are not doing the task, then there is no loss for me, but it is a loss for you only, right? Whether you are doing whether you are practicing or not, right? That will depend on you. That will not impact on me, right? So for me, my responsibility is to make you understand, make you do all these things. Then it is up to you. If you are taking the classes seriously, doing the exercises seriously or not, that what I can only guide you, I can suggest, but I cannot do the things for you, right? What is for me or what I can do from I'm doing my best, right? And you also have to give your best, right? So once the best is from both sides, then the result will be best, right? So
would you mind showing in which classes you gave the assignments? Sorry, but I don't have it.
So
Maybe I was
basically,
asleep. In which classes did you give the assignments?
okay, so I'm showing you. So in this performing batch operation, right, there is a document performing batch operations using ADO.NET, right? So in this case, what I have shown, right, performing batch operation, in this case, I'm using a single method, right? In this case, I'm using a, not this one, exactly which class, even I also forgot that. Generating, okay, let me dataset, yes, dataset using storage procedure. So in this case, you can see I'm creating a method, right? Here I'm generating a generic method. This is my generic method, right? Which is taking the connection string, procedure name, and parameter list, and it is going to return me a data set, right? Now, by using this method, I can execute any storage procedure which is returning me a data set, right? What task I have given to you guys is you have to prepare a generic method, right? Which is taking the connection string, procedure name, and parameter list. But in that case, it is not going to return me a data set. Rather than it can be return me some object values, right? It can, that value might be some string value, that value might be some integer value, and I want to make that generic.
Okay, that's first task.
Right. This is the first task, right? And the second task, what I have given, what is the second task, guys? I have given.
No, I'm asking. I don't know.
No, I'm asking. Even I also forgot. This is the first. What is the second task, guys?
The transactions we need to do using stored procedures. I think.
Transactions or distributed transactions? Okay, transactions.
Yeah, transactions. Yeah, I'm doing that.
Right. So in this case, what I'm doing, in this case, I'm using this update statements, right? Not this one, the distributed transactions, right? So in the case of a distributed transactions, right, I'm communicating with 2 different databases, right? And in this case, you can see I have written the code as it is, right? So here one update statement, insert statement, right? I'm hard coding this statement, right? Instead of using this command text, right? You need to prepare one storage procedure, and inside that storage procedure, you need to perform these 2 operations, right? And this is going to perform in 1 DB, and from different DB, you need to create a different storage procedure, and you need to perform these things. Right, so basically instead of using this plain SQL or command text, right, you have to use storage procedure.
Okay,
right,
that's number 2.
Right, and the next task is what I have assigned today.
Okay.
Right, so these are very simple because nothing new. Already we have covered all these concepts, right? You can refer to the document and you can do it by yourself.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, the next class is on Monday, and from Monday, we are going to start entity framework. And before entity framework, I would suggest everyone to complete these 3 tasks, right, in the weekend, as well as please try to learn SQL, right? Because SQL is important. Whatever the joining, right? set operation, joining operation, right? All these things, logical operators, all these things you must know, right? Aggregate functions, max, min, all these things. If you know how to use in a SQL Server and how they are working in a SQL Server, right? Then you can easily understand the entity framework. That's it for today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a weekend.
Thank you.